Okay. Yeah, so you meditate on the skeleton. Yeah, you contemplated the nature of the body. It had a stilling or a sobering effect. Yeah. Uh-huh.
It's very interesting because my skeleton has some metal parts now. Which really made it even more unreal, more ephemeral, it's just parts.
Yeah.
You know, it was really eye-opening, and I just had to laugh because I've got all this metal now, and it's, you know, it was funny to put the knee in there and put the hip in there and then multiply them out millions and millions of times and have some metal knees out there and have some metal hip bones out there, and but it was very, very, parts.
Yeah.
I'm just parts.
It's just parts. And it's just material stuff. You know, that's all it is. It's just physical stuff. You know? Yeah. It's interesting when you have metal and you think mine, you know, my body, and now mine includes that piece of metal. Yeah.
It also feels really clean.
Yeah.
Because I don't know about anybody else's skeleton. Mine loses its gunk pretty quick. But then that feeling of just the wind moving through the ribs or moving through these parts is like, it's very freeing in a way.
Yeah, I always felt that way too, especially, well, you take the skin off, but then you imagine everything that's inside the body, all that disgusting looking stuff just evaporates and disappears. And then, oh, there's just my bones. And now my bones are, you know, very clean, and they don't have bits of flesh or, you know, muscle or stuff attached to them. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then how did you feel when you imagined everything coming back? Yeah, it feels kind of yucky. Yeah. Yeah, because all that stuff inside.
Kind of binding.
Binding, yeah. Yeah. So it's interesting to do this meditation on the body to release our attachment to the body, because when we die, one of the things that causes us pain is having to separate from the body. Yeah, we have to separate from possessions, from friends and relatives, and from the thing we've been with from the beginning of the life, this body. Yeah, and then this thing is, but you know, my identity, my body, I need to be something, and then then you are, and it you know, makes the craving and clinging at the time of death arrive, and sure enough, we get what we wanted, and we're in another body. So, it's a good meditation to do, to kind of break that attachment. Mm-hmm. Okay, tonight we're going to go into more meditating on the breath. Yeah. We did that. Yeah, this is the one from, what's his name? Yeah, what's his name? Excuse me. Vasubandhu. Yeah. No, you don't call sages what's his name, or you know who, or what. Yeah. Okay, so first we visualize the merit field and ourselves surrounded by all sentient beings. And when you're there in this massive crowd of all sentient beings. Just think, oh, all together, all of us just want to be happy and don't want to suffer.
To the teacher endowed, transcendent destroyer, oneness gone, foe destroyer, completely and fully awakened one, perfect in knowledge and good conduct, one gone to bliss, nor of the world's supreme guide of beings to be tamed. Teacher of gods and humans, to you the Buddha endowed, transcendent destroyer, glorious conqueror, Shakyamuni, I prostrate, make offerings and go for refuge. When, O supreme among humans who were born on this earth, you pay 7 strides and said, I am supreme in this world. To you who are wise, then I bow. With pure bodies formed supremely fine, wisdom ocean like a golden mountain, fame that blazes in the 3 worlds, winner of the best supreme guide, to you I bow. With the supreme signs, taste like a spotless moon, color like gold, to you I bow. You are immaculate, the 3 worlds are not incomparable, wise one, to you I bow. Great compassionate protector, all-knowing teacher, field of merit and good qualities, vast as an ocean, to the Tathagata I bow. Through purity, freeing from attachment, through virtue, freeing from the lower realms. Unique, supreme, ultimate reality, to the Dharma that is peace I bow. Having freed themselves, showing the path to freedom too, well established in the trainings. The holy field endowed with good qualities, to the Sangha I bow. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions, perform only perfect virtuous actions. Subdue your mind completely, this is the teaching of the Buddha. A star, a mirage, a flame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew, a bubble. A dream, a flash, lightning, a cloud, see conditioned things as such. Through this merit may sentient beings attain the state of all-seeing, subdue the foe of faults, and be delivered from the ocean of cyclic existence, perturbed by the waves of aging, sickness, and death. This ground anointed with perfume, flowers strewn Mount Meru, o'erland, sun and moon, imagined as a Buddha land and offered to you. May all beings enjoy this pure land. Venerable holy gurus, in the space of your truth body, from billowing clouds of your wisdom and love, let fall the rain of the profound and extensive Dharma, in whatever form is suitable for subduing sentient beings. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kamnirayatayami. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings.
So let's cultivate our motivation. And if we look at our life and the times when we've been most unhappy or had many problems, we see that our self-centered thought is always nearby, always thinking, me, oh, poor me, those people harm me. We know the routine. But it's strange how it, as much as we read in the Lama Chopa and receive advice in the thought training teachings to compare what causes us more suffering and what causes us happiness, if we have that comparison between the self-centered thought and cherishing others, when we look closely, we may initially think, oh, self-centered thought takes good care of me. It causes me happiness. But when we look more closely, we see that under its influence, we say and do things that disturb society, disturb the minds and lives of other living beings. And that brings us misery now. And the self-centered attitudes also created the karma for future misery. Whereas when we cherish sentient beings, not with attachment, but simply because they exist, they have the Buddha potential and they've been kind to us. If we cherish them, then we see that our relationships are much happier. We get along better with them. We feel good about ourselves. And we don't have fear of people criticizing us or finding out things that we don't want other people to know. Instead, our mind is quite relaxed. We can rejoice in our own virtue and have the confidence that at the time of death and in future lives, the mind will be in the Dharma and have all the good circumstances to continue on the path. So we really need to think about this again and again and again to overcome the, what do you call it, the melody, the theme song of the self-centered thought, and instead replace it with the benefits of cherishing sentient beings. And then with this motivation, we can progress and really aspire to be of greater benefit, create the causes to be of greater benefit, generate bodhicitta, and complete the path. So think about this for a moment and generate the bodhicitta. It's really true, isn't it? When we're stuck in me, I, my, and mine. Yeah, always going round, round, round. I want this, I can't have that. Yeah, why don't people appreciate me? Oh, they flattered me on top of the world. You know, how much we just fall into that and think that that way of thinking is going to bring us happiness. And it never has. And we keep doing it. Yeah. And the flip is just, cherishing other sentient beings. And then the happiness that that brings us and the happiness it brings them, and how the whole dynamic between us and others completely is transformed. Yeah. We can see how that works. We know how that works. It's not difficult to think about and understand, is it? How about doing it? I don't feel like it. Yeah. Or why should I? They were mean to me. Why should I be nice to them? Incredible, isn't it? How we shoot ourselves in the foot. Yeah. That's why the thought training, mind training teachings are so precious, because they really call us on this. Yeah. And those verses in the Guru Puja and Lama Chopa, so, there's a whole section there about the benefits of cherishing others and the faults, the disadvantages of just being stuck in our own trip. Mm-hmm.
Venerable, last week or so you shared with us a poem by your friend Francis Payon. I don't know how you say his last name.
Oh, yeah.
And that is so helpful to read that. It's such a mind jolt, but so helpful to read. And it hits me a different way than the mind training. So I appreciate.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a long-term practitioner. Yeah. Okay. So, page 182. We are rushing along in this book. Huh? Yeah. Okay, it's called Meditating on the Breath to Counteract Discursive Thought. So, why are we doing it? To counteract discursive thought. Yeah, so yeah. And so here, that's the purpose of it. In other words, it doesn't have to be the main object of meditation. Yeah. So the Buddha recommended meditation on the breath to overcome discursive thought. Okay, vikalpa, or our old friend namtok. Yeah, that's a polite way to call namtok, discursive thought. Yeah, that sounds very polite, wasn't it? Lama just got to the core. Superstitious thinking. Yeah, why is it superstitious? Because it's incorrectly thinking about things, but yeah, it's interesting how we use the word superstitious instead of incorrectly thinking about things. But when you think about it, when we get into this whole thing about me, I, my, mine, the world doesn't treat me well, the world's falling apart, I'm so miserable. Isn't that all superstition? Yeah. Yeah, what's superstition? You believe things that aren't true. You believe conspiracy theories. Yeah, and we're really dedicated to our conspiracy theory of the self-centered mind. Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you're following the news this week, yeah, it's becoming very clear the disadvantages of propagating conspiracy theories. Yeah, because you get yourself all tied in knots and you convince people of a certain conspiracy theory and they believe it and they're interested in it. But then you can't, once you create a conspiracy theory, you can't control what people do with it, because everybody else is going to add something or subtract something or embellish something. Yeah. And so what you started out as a conspiracy theory, yeah, now, you know, especially if the conspiracy people thing was everything is other people's fault, and, you know, there's a cabal of pedophiles who form the deep state and are running the country, and you convince people of that, then when you have the power to break that open and show that no, there's no you know, you're gonna dispel all those, you know, pedophiles and get them out of the government because they're destroying the country. And you convince people that this is what you're gonna do, and they believe you and they think you're wonderful. And then you can't control the conspiracy theory. And suddenly people begin to think that maybe you're one of the pedophiles. And not only that, they start to think that maybe you're the deep state who doesn't want to tell them the truth, who's hiding the truth from them. Yeah. So this is the problem of conspiracy theories. It's also the problem of lying. Conspiracy theories are lies. Yeah, when we lie, we get all tangled up in our lies because we've convinced people of this or that, and then the information that they can see or hear or, you know, with their own senses doesn't support our lies. And what happens? Yeah, especially if your lie is, you know, that you're going to solve the problem. You're the one reliable person that's going to solve the problem. Yeah, and you lied about that and they believe you. And now you're all tangled up and you can't solve the problem. And plus, they think you're part of it. Then what do you do?
Change the subject.
That's exactly it. You change the subject. You created another crisis that will distract people. Yeah, wonderful way to bring happiness to self and others, isn't it? Yeah, it's so interesting what people do, thinking, oh, if I say this, if I lie about this, it will protect me, it will give me power. Yeah, I'll have benefit from it. Dun, what is it? Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, bad news. Okay. So meditating on the breath to counteract discursive thought. If you're caught in a conspiracy theory and a bunch of lies, Yeah. Can you calm your mind enough to meditate on the breath to stop your discursive thought? Or is your mind racing here and racing there? And what do I say to this one? What do I say to that one? How do I cover this up? And, oh, these people think I am covering things up. I would never do that, although I am. But how can I convince them that I'm not doing it? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, okay. So the Buddha recommended meditation on the breath to overcome discursive thought. Mental busyness that hinders our meditation. So mental busyness, kind of the everyday worries of, I've got it, lunch is at 12 and I'm running late, that stuff. But what about the busyness of, how do I hold up this lie? Okay, so this meditation, taught by Vasubandhu in the Abbey Dharmakosha Vyasa, progresses in 6 phases. The Chinese master Zhi's 6 Dharma gates to the sublime, written in the 6th century. Vasubandhu was same time as the Sangha. They were stepbrothers. So probably 2nd, 3rd century, sometime around there. So Zhi also teaches this meditation. So the coming and going of the breath as you exhale and inhale is the observed object. So what your focus point on is the breath going in and out. So it's an object that's changing. As a first step, counting the breath. So relax the mind and body. So that it's good to do a body scan, a brief body scan before we meditate and really check and see if you're holding tension somewhere in your body. And develop the habit of relaxing it, checking in with your body. So relax the body and mind, then breathe comfortably, letting your out and in breaths be equal in speed and in strength. So you're breathing naturally. You're not doing deep breathing, anything, like that. So mentally count each cycle of the breath, going out and coming in until you reach 10. Now this is interesting. What counts as one breath? An out breath and an in breath. We usually think an in breath and an out breath is one breath. Here, one breath is an out breath and an in breath. Okay, so mentally count each cycle of the breath going out and coming in until you reach 10. Don't count more than 10 because restlessness may arise from the mind focusing too tightly. When your mind gets tight, okay. 80,417. 80,418. Your mind gets tight having to remember all of that. So you just go to 10. If you count less than 10, you may not be able to overcome laxity. So this is helping you overcome laxity too. So count clearly, don't mix up the numbers or forget them. Avoid confusion over whether you're exhaling or inhaling. Sounds simple. Try it. Don't mix up the numbers. See if you can do that. And don't lose of, oh, did I get an extra exhale and inhale between these two numbers? Or, oh, I just exhaled, now I'm paying attention again and I'm inhaling. Do I count that? And then you're off on, what do I count and who determines what I count, and if I don't count it and if I do count it, and you're lost. Okay, as you exhale, be aware. Now I'm about to breathe out. I'm breathing out. The exhalation is almost finished. The exhalation has finished. So there's 4 things to be aware of. Yeah? So, pay attention. Now I'm about to breathe out. So you're just on the verge of starting. I'm breathing out. It's going on. The exhalation is almost finished, but not quite. And now the exhalation is finished. When inhaling, think, now I'm about to breathe in. Now I'm breathing in. The inhalation is about to finish. The inhalation has finished. Okay, so paying attention to that. And that one cycle, out and in, that's 1. Yeah. Even though the instructions are simple, doing this meditation properly with concentration is difficult. If you concentrate well, thoughts will disappear and you will be left with the radiant nature of the mind. Yeah. But to do this, you have to be really interested in your breath. Yeah? And are we interested in our breath, or we hardly pay attention to it during the day, do we? We're just breathing all the time, and we're usually not aware of it unless we're inhaling a nice smell or a bad smell. Yeah, and then all of a sudden, oh, I'm breathing. Yeah, or we cough or we choke, then we recognize it. But, I don't know, are you interested in your breath? Do you watch it during the day? Yeah? Huh. Yeah, oh my, I'm always thinking about something else. Yeah, breath is so boring. Out, in, out, in. How do I make my mind interested in this? Yeah, and that's what you have to do, is make your mind interested in all the small things that are going on when you're breathing, like the changing nature of the breath. Yeah, and okay, I'm going to tell you one thing I do find interesting about breathing, and I'm not saying that you should think like me. You should find the breath interesting. But observe your breathing patterns when different emotions arise in your mind. That can be very interesting. Yeah. Observe your breath when you're talking to somebody and they say something that you don't like, or they say something that you do like. Yeah. What happens to your breath? And what happens to your breath when you're with, let's say, somebody who's very upset and their breathing is really irregular because they're crying or they're, sighing all the time? What happens to your breath when you're with somebody like that? Or you're with somebody who's angry and their breath is really strong and forceful. Yeah, this part is quite interesting. Yeah. They say, and when I remember to do this, it does help, that if you're with somebody who's upset, try to match their breathing and breathe together with them, and then slowly slow down your breath, relax your breath. Yeah. So you start out really breathing with them. And when you breathe at the same rate with somebody, like when you walk at the same rate with somebody, yeah, there's a connection building. Yeah. And then if you start to slow your breath down, then sometimes that helps them. Yeah. Okay. So even though the instructions are simple, doing this meditation properly with concentration is difficult. If you concentrate well, your thoughts will disappear and you will be left with the radiant nature of the mind. When your thoughts disappear, do you get concerned? Like, oh, I better think something, otherwise I'm wasting my time. No? I think this is a trait of, well, I was going to say the High Achievers Neurotic Society, except I just saw one of the members of it say, no, that doesn't happen to her. But I don't know. Okay, then step 2, following the breath. Breathe slowly. So this time, yeah, you're breathing slowly. And while inhaling, follow the breath in. Imagine it going to the throat. I said to the throat, to the heart, to the navel, to the thighs, to the sole of the feet. Get a sense that the breath pervades the body, which has many channels through which the breath passes. Okay. When exhaling, follow the breath as it leaves your body. Imagine, yeah, so it's coming up, it's going out. Yeah, imagine it goes a short distance outside your nostrils before you inhale again. So this is called following because the mind follows the breath. The mind follows as it goes down through the body, permeates the body to the soles of the feet. It follows it as it now is leaving the body. Yeah, and it goes out a short distance, and then you inhale again. You don't have to think that you're inhaling the same air, you know. Yeah. Okay. Then the third step is placing. So breathe now, you're breathing normally, but rather than concentrating on exhaling and inhaling, concentrate on the internal flow of the breath within the body. Okay, it is like a fine, still thread running from the tip of your nose to the soles of your feet. Okay, so examine the sensations the breath causes within the body along the points of this thread. Do you feel hot, cold, comfortable, uncomfortable, and so forth? Examine the pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral feelings that arise from the breath's movement in the body. Okay, so really, again, following the breath as it goes in and out, except you're thinking of it, it's like just the breath forms is like a very thin thread that comes in and goes out, and you examine the sensations in your body along the points of that thread. And the fourth is investigating. So observe the breathing process. As you inhale and exhale, be aware that the breath isn't just wind. It's in the nature of all four elements, earth, water, fire, and wind, and the four element derivatives, visible form, odor, taste, and tangible objects. Okay, so this is all out of Dura. If you've studied the collected topics text, yeah, and you'll hear this things very often, it's the ancient way of looking at the physical world, okay? So earth, water, fire, wind. You can think of them as, physical things, earth, water, fire, wind. But another way of thinking of them is as qualities, okay? So earth means hardness. Yeah. Water means connectivity. It joins things. Yeah, what did I say? Fire? I didn't say fire. Where are we? Okay. Yeah, I did say fire. So earth, hardness, water, connectivity, it joins things. Yeah, water makes things sticky and they stay together. Fire, heat, and wind, movement. Okay, so there you see them as qualities, not as atoms. And then the four things that derive from these, yeah, so visible form, what you can see, odor, the object of your smell, taste, and tangible sensations. Okay, so breath is part of the body, but you see how it's the nature of all four, so it interacts, yeah. And the breath has a certain hardness, a certain connectivity, a certain temperature, a certain movement, yeah. So you can see it's not just breath. Okay, so observe how the mind and mental factors depend on the breath, and how the mind and mental factors depend on the body and the breath. Yeah, so this is relating to what I said before about watching how your thoughts or your moods or your emotions affect the breath. Yeah, and how in turn, how your breathing can affect what you feel and what's going on in your body too. The breath and the mind, on the breath and the mind and mental factors are interrelated. Observe the way in which they mutually affect each other. When the relationship of mind and body is broken, the person dies. Yeah. So we can observe here that, for example, when our mind is quite nervous, we tend to breathe fast, and we tend to breathe from the upper part of the chest when we're nervous, yeah. When we're relaxed, yeah, then the breath goes down into your belly, yeah, and the breath slows down. But it's, observe this, how it works, yeah. And see if you have a habit of breathing just from here instead of from your belly. Because if you're in the habit of just taking short breaths from here, it's going to affect your mind, and your mind's going to get nervous and emotional, yeah? Okay, then the fifth step is called changing. So instead of focusing on the breath, use your mind, which has become serviceable and concentrated, to examine the four truths, which now become your object of meditation. So now your object of meditation is changing from the breath to the four truths. As a result of this, the mind is able to proceed through the four stages of the path of preparation: heat, peak, fortitude, and supreme dharma. Okay, so that's the main object of meditation on the path of preparation. And then purifying, step 6, is the mind goes on to cultivate the paths of seeing and meditation and no more learning. So you start out with the breath as your object, and then it changes to the Four Truths, which is what we need to realize, especially as Vasubandhu and the Pali canon teaches. That's what we need to realize to attain liberation. So these 6 meditations are progressive and profound, the latter being harder than the preceding ones. When developing ability in them, start with the first, and when it is stable, proceed to the second, and so on. Yeah. Alternatively, you can do several in one sitting, going all the way through the sequence of 6. Yeah, so you can do it slow, and where you don't go on to the next one until you're stable in the first one, or you can just kind of try all 6 and see where you go. Yeah. It'll probably make you see how you need to get one stable before you go on to the next one. The above 3 meditations on the foul aspects of the body, the skeleton and the breath, can be the observed objects for cultivating serenity, or they can be used to counteract the hindrances of attachment, restlessness, and discursive thought when they interrupt your meditation on another observed object. Okay, so they can be your main object on which you attain serenity, or you could meditate on, like, the image of the Buddha, but when you get distracted by a lot of discursive chatter and daydreaming, then come back and do one of these meditations, and it helps the mind calm down. Okay, like, what you said at the beginning of the session when I said, how did meditating on the skeleton and the foul aspect of the body affect your mind? Oh, my mind calmed down, it got still. So you can see it helps with restlessness, discursive thought, mental chatter, worry, anxiety. Yeah. And then you can use it, to calm your mind down. Then you go back to your initial object of meditation. So people tell me that when doing analytic meditation on Lam Rim or deity yoga practice, their minds are either distracted, wandering from this object to that, or they are drowsy. Oh, anybody here experience any of that? Yeah. You're not single-pointed. Yeah. Imagine that. Yeah, wandering from this object to that, distracted, drowsy, daydreaming, getting angry, remembering things from the past, planning things for the future, being discontent in the present, because you just have to sit there until the bell rings. Yeah, it's so interesting when you do retreat. Yeah, people, not a planned retreat like how we do group retreats, but when you decide you're going to do retreat, and you go in and you do retreat, then, your mind's all over the place. And then you start thinking, I'm doing retreat, but maybe I should study more. Or I'm doing retreat, but maybe I should do some social service, do something for other sentient beings, create some merit. But then when you're studying, what do you want to do? Oh, why am I studying? I want to do retreat. Or I'm studying, I should really put it in action and do some social service. And then when you're doing social service, you're running around and you think, oh, if I could only do retreat. Or, oh, I remember when I was studying, my mind was so focused, I wasn't crazy like now. Yeah? This is called the dissatisfied mind. Yeah? The chanting is always better on the other side of the meditation hall. I should be doing something different because what I'm doing just isn't bringing the results I want. But if I switch my activity, then, yeah. And what happens? Yeah. What happens? You're in retreat and you switch your activity. I had one friend who she really wanted to do long retreat. And she had studied some, but she really wanted to do long retreat. So she built this really nice retreat house. I mean, really nice. Yeah, with a kitchen and a living room and a retreat room and bedroom. It was beautiful. It was in India. It had all the modern conveniences, you know. This was before the days of computers, so she didn't have that. But if it had been now, she would have had computers and, you know, everything. Okay. And then she had to renew her visa, you know, I think before she started or just when she started retreat. So she, you know, when you're up in the mountains, then you have to go down to Lower Dharamsala. It's a whole day trip going down and coming back up. And then there were other people who needed to renew their visas, and they were doing maybe Vajrasattva retreat or something. So she was going down, so she took their visas, their passports and visas too. And she got involved in this whole thing of renewing everybody else's visa. Yeah, I don't know if she ever made it back into retreat. But this kind of thing can easily happen. Yeah. And then I think of Geshe Thubten, one of my teachers. Those of you who've been to Dharamsala, even when you're at MacLeod or you're at Tushita, up in the mountains, you see just a few little huts. So he was up there meditating. And one of his students lived at Senilaptra, the debating school, which was by the main temple. So he would walk up there on Sundays, his day off, carrying food and supplies for Geshe-la every Sunday, rain or shine. And in the monsoon rains, it rained. I mean, if you've ever experienced monsoon rains, there is nothing like it. Yeah. And he would go up every Sunday to bring Geshe-la food and supplies so that Geshe-la didn't have to come down. Yeah, Geshe-la was quite a meditator. Yeah, he was the one I often tell you about, who was quite renounced. Yeah, his clothes were kind of old and shimmed up a bit short, and his socks falling down, and his shoes all scuffed up, and some whiskers, you know, and yeah, but he was quite something. And he only ended his retreat because the Italian Dharma Center, the one that I was at, asked His Holiness to please send a Geshe. So His Holiness tapped Geshe Thubten and said, go to Italy. And I don't think Geshe-la wanted to. Yeah, but when His Holiness tells you something, you do it. And he went to Italy, and he was the one that I told you took the cushion off the high throne and got rid of the china dishes. And he was there for several years teaching, but the Italians loved him. They formed a really nice connection with him. Yeah. Even though he didn't like their china. Yeah. And stuff. Okay. Yeah, so people tell me that when doing analytic meditation on Lamrim or deity yoga practice, their minds are either distracted, wandering from this object to that, or they are drowsy. In this case, I recommend doing the meditations described above over a period of time. Witness for yourself the effect they have. The Buddha recommended these meditations because he knew that they work. Okay, then there's a reflection. So, point 1, do the 3 meditations described above by first making an outline of the meditations points. Okay, so the first is to meditate on the body to counteract desire. Then second, to meditate on the skeleton to counteract restlessness, and meditating on the breath to counteract discursive thought. Yeah. And, so those are the specialties of those meditations. And then be aware how each meditation affects your mind when you do it repeatedly. That is a key word, repeatedly. Gain familiarity. Okay, so now overcoming hindrances. It is important not to become discouraged when the 5 hindrances arise in your meditation, but to make effort to eliminate them. This effort is different from pushing ourselves. Repeat, this effort is different from pushing ourselves. Yeah. It is steady and consistent. Yeah, the effort that pushes ourselves is like collapse. Yeah. So this is steady and consistent. The mind is neither too tight nor too loose. Yeah, so tight is your mind is like, I'm gonna concentrate. Yeah. And too loose is the mind's too relaxed. Okay, as we familiarize ourselves with the antidotes over time, hindrances will gradually subside and the mind will become clearer because there's not so much garbage thought going on in it. Yeah. The concentrated mind of samadhi is blissful and focused. Free from the 5 hindrances, it can see the body, feelings, mind, and phenomena for what they are. Okay, so you remember the 5 hindrances? Yeah, what are the body, feelings, mind, and phenomena? The 4 establishments of mindfulness. Yeah, for what they are. It's an important meditation. With samadhi, we will come to know the power and potential of the mind and will be able to integrate wisdom and compassion in our way of being. Yeah, so the power and potential of the mind. Yeah, how we can, direct the mind at different objects. And then how to integrate wisdom and compassion in our daily life. Wouldn't that be nice? The Buddha gave several similes for the relief and freedom one feels when the 5 hindrances have subsided. Okay, so here's from the Pali Canon. Suppose a person is afflicted, suffering, and gravely ill, and his food does not agree with him, and his body has no strength. But later he recovers from the affliction, and his food agrees with him, and his body regains strength. Then, on considering this, he will be glad and full of joy. It's a good, yeah. Or suppose a person is a slave, not autonomous, but dependent on others, unable to go where he wants. But later he is released from slavery, independent of others, a free person, able to go where he wants. On considering this, he is glad and full of joy. Right now, our mind is a slave to the afflictions. Yeah? So we have to really get a feeling of how our mind is enslaved by the afflictions and the self-centered thought. And then imagine what it would be like to be free of all of that garbage going on all day. Or suppose a person with wealth and property enters a road across a desert, but later he crosses the desert safe and secure with no loss of property. On considering this, he is glad and full of joy. So too monastics, when these 5 hindrances are not abandoned in himself, a monastic sees them respectively as a disease, slavery, and a road across a desert. But when these 5 hindrances have been abandoned and in himself, he sees that as good and health, freedom from slavery, and a land of safety. Okay. Now back to His Holiness. The development of samadhi and serenity is a gradual process. Repeat. The development of samadhi and serenity is a gradual process. It does not happen quickly or with little effort on our part. No matter how much we wish realizations could occur in that way. And we're fed up because we try so hard for so long and no realizations are coming yet. Why can't the path be different? Yeah. Or I'm incompetent, or what my teacher taught is stupid. Doesn't work. Yeah. This is what happens when we expect quick progress. Okay, the Buddha used the simile of a goldsmith gradually purifying gold to illustrate this. He washes the gold well several times to separate the gold dust from dirt, from earth, grit, sand, and dust. He then puts it into a melting pot and repeatedly melts it to remove all the flaws. Only when the gold is pliant, workable, and bright can the goldsmith make what he wishes with it. So now the Buddha explains again. It is similar monastics with a monastic devoted to the higher mind, meaning concentration. There are in him gross impurities, namely bad conduct of body, speech, and mind. Such conduct an earnest, capable monastic abandons, dispels, eliminates, and abolishes. Interesting, okay, what does he start with? This monastic is devoted to the higher mind who wants to gain concentration and wisdom. But in him, there's gross impurities. What are the gross impurities? Bad conduct of body, speech, and mind. Yeah, unethical behavior. Yeah, breaking precepts, breaking protocol. yeah, not being considerate and following the ethics and culture of whatever place we're living. Yeah. Such conduct an earnest, capable monastic abandons, dispels, eliminates, and abolishes. So again, a gradual process. He abandons them, okay, so he's calmed them. He dispels them. They can't come up so much. He eliminates them. They can't come up. And they're abolished. They're cut off with wisdom. When he has abandoned these, yeah, and that's just the bad actions of body, speech, and mind. Regular, the 10 non-virtues, okay, plus our precepts. When he has abandoned these, there are still impurities of a moderate degree that cling to him. Namely, our favorite one, sensual thoughts, thoughts of malice and violent thoughts. Such thoughts an earnest, capable monastic abandons, dispels, eliminates, and abolishes. Okay, so you get rid of your gross non-virtue of body, speech, and mind. Okay, but there's still moderate ones. Now, what's going on in your mind? Sensual thoughts. Yeah, so sex, food, music, coffee, chocolate, yeah, your phone, the news, yeah, whatever your social media you're following, you know, it's like, I've got to find out what's going on, what my friend ate for breakfast. You know, this is so important, okay? Or thoughts of malice. Oh, these people are so inconsiderate. They didn't cook the kind of food I like. They burnt the carrots. Yeah, they made the cookies too sweet. They didn't put enough sugar in the cookies. Oh, you know, and then what do? I have thoughts of malice. Yeah, they mess with my email. Yeah, they misplace my stuff. Yeah, I left my stuff on that windowsill. Yeah, I know I'm not supposed to leave my personal things on the windowsill, but they're not supposed to move it. And why did they move it? You know, not to mention thinking of past conflicts and all the people you're still mad at because of things in the past. Yeah. So, namely, sensual thoughts, thoughts of malice, and violent thoughts. I'm going to give them a taste of their own medicine. Of course, it's done with compassion, so that they will learn and they will stop committing so much non-virtue. Wait until I do to them what they've done to me. Ooh. You ever think like that? Yeah. You're with friends. You can admit it. Yeah. Okay, such thoughts an earnest, capable monastic abandons, dispels, eliminates, and abolishes. When he has abandoned these, there are still some subtle impurities that cling to him. Now, this is interesting. It's subtle impurities that cling to him. Namely, thoughts about his relatives. Yeah. So remember, they're talking about a culture where the family was the center of society, and extended families, you know, you had your your huge family, you had your clan, you know, you were embedded in a whole network of people. Yeah. And nobody moved across the country. Yeah, because you couldn't get across the country alive anyway. So most people, you know, a few people ventured, but most people stayed put. Namely, thoughts about his relatives, his home country, and his reputation. Yeah, what do people think about me? Do they like me? Do they not like me? Do they think I'm a good practitioner? Do they respect me? Oh, they don't respect me. Why not? That's because they're so stupid they don't realize how virtuous I am. Yeah, the mind that's talking like that, you know, is not virtuous, and it's very clear why people don't respect us. Yeah, but what the mind thinks is, you know, I'm the best, and something's wrong with those people. You know? So, namely, thoughts about his relatives. Oh, my relatives, yeah, who are surrounding me, who do things for me, who love me. Yeah, his home country. Oh, I long to be in Southern California. No, I don't. And his reputation. Yeah, everybody's got to like me, right? That's rule number one of the universe. Everybody has to like me. So such thoughts an earnest, capable monastic abandons, dispels, eliminates, and abolishes. Okay, so I'm reading this slowly and giving examples because if you do this when, you know, you go back this next week and after that, hopefully, and you meditate according to this, this becomes a whole meditation. Yeah, a different way of meditating, seeing the disadvantages of the 8 worldly concerns. Okay, next, when he has abandoned these, there still remains thoughts about higher mental states experienced in meditation. They long for the higher mental states. Let's see what it says here. 52. Okay, these are the 10 corruptions of insight meditation. Yeah. You're wanting certain experiences. I'm meditating on Chenrezig. When's Chenrezig going to appear to me? Yeah. Okay. So that concentration is not yet peaceful and sublime. Yeah, because it's imagining what it wants to attain, and there's some dissatisfaction in not having it yet. It is not yet peaceful and sublime. It has not attained full serenity, nor has it achieved mental unification. It is maintained by strenuous suppression of the defilements. Okay. But there comes a time when his mind becomes inwardly steady. You know, so you keep practicing, yeah. Not with tension, not competing with other people, okay. Where his mind becomes inwardly steadied, composed, unified, and concentrated. That concentration is then calm and refined. It has attained to full serenity and achieved mental unification. It is not maintained by strenuous suppression of the defilements. Yeah, so the mind is unified. It's on one point. Yeah, our mind is like all over the universe, speaking for myself. Then to whatever mental state realizable by direct knowledge, he directs his mind. He achieves the capacity of realizing that state by direct knowledge whenever the necessary conditions occur. So then he's able to go through the different dhyanas and mental absorptions and combine it with wisdom. So fortitude, continuous effort, and a relaxed mind free from unrealistic expectations are great aids to gain serenity and other realizations. Some great Buddhist meditators dwell alone in the forest or mountains, not speaking to anybody and braving hardships. Hearing about them, some people have a romantic notion of living in solitude, withdrawn from the world. One day, the Buddha heard about a bhikshu who was dwelling alone and who encouraged others to do so. He entered a village on alms round alone, returned to his isolated place alone, sat alone, and did walking meditation alone. Calling this monk to him, the Buddha said that what he was doing was a way of dwelling alone, but fulfilling the real purpose of dwelling alone was different. So he was physically dwelling alone. I'm not talking to people, I'm not socializing, I'm not on, social media, and I just, take my meal and I go out on the deck, I go back to my room, I'm just, alone, I don't talk to people, I don't venture out and do things, because everything everybody else is doing is just wasting my precious time. Yeah. And the Buddha said, come here. And the Buddha said, yes, you are dwelling alone. That's one way. But the real purpose of dwelling alone was not what you're having at that point. So here the Buddha explains. How is dwelling alone fulfilled in detail? Here, what lies in the past has been abandoned. What lies in the future has been relinquished. An attachment and sensual desire for present forms of individual existence have been thoroughly removed. The wise one, all-conqueror, all-knower, among all things unsullied, with all cast off, liberated in the destruction of craving, I call that person one who dwells alone. So the destruction of craving, liberation. Yeah, when you destroy craving, you have to destroy ignorance. When craving is absent, it can't make any karma ripen that propels another rebirth. Okay, so how do you do this? What lies in the past has been abandoned. Okay, does that mean whenever you start thinking about the past, you go, oh, I'm not going to think about it? No. Yeah, because you're still mad about things that happened in the past, or you're still attached to things happen in the past, and you want them to happen again in the future. Yeah, so you daydream what you had in the past. Why can't I have that in the future? Or you remember bad things that happened to you in the past, and you're stuck in resentment, and you don't want to experience them. Yeah, but here, what lies in the past has been abandoned. You've made peace with the past. Yeah, this is a very important thing, How do we make peace with the past? We forgive those who have harmed us. We apologize, at least in our minds, we apologize to those whom we have harmed. Yeah, that that's a very, very necessary thing to make peace with the past. Yeah, and that's not even talking about the things that we're longing for to repeat from the past. But, so often, thinking about the past, we're agitated, people did this to me, people, didn't treat me properly. And nowadays, of course, everybody is traumatized. I learned that from the young adult group a few years ago. Yeah, when they're all people, young adults, and they're all talking, they're using the word trauma like, you're talking about potato chips, just everybody has trauma, everybody has potato chips. And I said, because to me, trauma is a really strong word. And so I asked, what do you mean? Who has trauma? They said, we all do. Yeah. So trauma, and these were people who didn't grow up in impoverished families. Yeah, of course families are dysfunctional, but what I've discovered is if you don't have anything big to complain about, you complain about the small things because they become big. Anybody else do that? Yeah. So when I compare, what I've experienced in my life to other people, yeah, I have a very blessed life. But when I don't do that and I just sit there, and this happened and this happened, and and the mind just unhappy. Yeah. I told you last week about how I, in college I went to these sessions where you're supposed to get everything out of you. I was beating those pillows. I was so embarrassed afterwards, I tell you. I did that one time. That was it. It cured me from beating pillows. And I never went in the middle of a meadow and screamed. If I had done that, my mother would have screamed even louder at me, and I never would have done that again. Yeah, so I self-censored my screams in the meadow to release all my repressed anger. No, but really, seriously, this is something that's so important, and I really, you really see it as people grow older, what they hold on to and what is still weighing on their mind. Yeah, what they don't like from the past. And grudges, that they're not going to carry them out. The other person may be dead already. Yeah, or their grudge, for retaliation, they know is negative. But the fermenting in their heart is this, bitterness, yeah. And they grow old and they become more and more bitter. Yeah. I think you may have met people in your life who are like that. Yeah, it's really sad. Yeah, because whatever you try and say to show them the good things in their life, they can't see it. Yeah, so much anger. Yeah. So you have to abandon what lies in the past. So that's the bad stuff. But also, we dream about the good stuff. Yeah, you were married, this wonderful person, and then they died. Why can't I recreate that? Why didn't? Well, you have attachment to that, but then also, I got dealt an unfair thing in life that my beloved spouse died. So there's mixed in with animosity, anger in there. But then there's longing to repeat what happened in the past. Yeah, I had this wonderful relationship and then they dumped me. Yeah, anybody here been dumped? Yeah. Anybody here dump somebody else? Oh, you never had either? No, the one in front of you. Yeah. Did you ever get dumped? Oh, yeah. Did you ever dump somebody? Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. You can raise your hand, Good. Yeah. So, yeah. See, we can hold on to these things. Yeah. And, you think of situations in the past. I want to relive that. It was so wonderful. Or it was, you want to relive it, but you want to do things really different than how you did it in the past. Oh, why didn't I do that? Why didn't I do this? Oh, that I was the one who ruined the whole thing. And then you get into all that stuff. Yeah, our minds get really stuck. Yeah. And it's all just thoughts. But you know what's magical about those thoughts? Guess who's the star of the show in those thoughts? They're all about me. Yeah. All about me. Do you remember one time, what was it? Maybe after an EML, we did a skit, or some people did a skit. I remember Venerable Nawan, before he ordained, was in it. And it's all about me, yeah. And he came riding out on the cart. You remember that too? Yes. Yeah, the kitchen cart, and he was sitting on top of it, and somebody was pushing it. And it's all about me, it's all about, And yeah, we just get so enamored with everything, that all of our thoughts, because they're all about me. Yeah, the skit was hilarious. Yeah. Yeah. And then, thoughts of the past. Do you remember the skit with Venerable Damcha? This one was also before she ordained, when she came in and everything, the whole world was against her, and she wanted this, and she came in with her staff.
Yeah, she's like a samurai.
Yeah.
She would come in and scream and weep. He's the last swordsman.
What?
He's the last swordsman.
The last?
Swordsman.
Oh, the last swordman. Okay. Yeah. And, just hammed it out, crying. Yeah. Yeah, so this is us, isn't it? Yeah, that's why we do skits, because we can act out how stupid we are and laugh at it. Yeah. This is what Venerable Wu-Yin had us do at the 1996 Vinaya course in Bodh Gaya. There were some really good skits there. Yes, I'll tell you one. I'm getting off base, but at least this will wake you up. So there was one nun, and so she was the Rinpoche. She played the Rinpoche. So they got her all decked out. You were there. Do you remember that? Trime played the Rinpoche, and wearing the crown and some kind of, we were in Bodh Gaya, so some kind of special, shiny something, and sitting at her, on her throne, holding court, and then all these Westerners coming to see her, and oh, Rinpoche, Rinpoche, where do I go pee-pee? And oh, Rinpoche, what should I study in school? Or, all these things, hamming it up, how Westerners are asking these kinds of things. And the Rinpoche sat there. First you put your offering here, then I will answer your question. And so there was a whole series of, Westerners coming up, put your offering here. It was a really big bowl, put your offering here, then I will answer your question. So that was part of the scene, but then part of the skit. But then after they got done with the Rinpoche and they knew where to go pee-pee, they rounded the corner and there were two poor nuns sitting on the side. And they were so poor that they had one alms bowl between them and they were sharing a mala. Yeah, because they only had one mala between them. And they were sitting there and they were so poor, and the Westerners would come and say, oh, what are you? Oh, we're nuns. Oh, and keep walking. Yeah, it was a great skit, it really kind of showed how things sometimes seem to be. Yeah, there was some. Okay, but she had us doing skits, and even the Tibetan nuns did it, but they didn't understand what a skit was, so they chanted the 21 praises to Tara. They sat in rows and chanted that, because that, they were told to, they didn't understand what it was. Okay, so here, what lies in the past has been abandoned. What lies in the future has been relinquished. Oh, but I've got a plan for the future and what I want to be. I have to have a goal. Yeah, this is what all the courses, the leadership courses are telling me. I should be a leader. I should have a goal. There should be something I want to be. What do I want to be? Well, let's see, I want to be President of the United States. How about, I want to be Prime Minister of Canada. That's a little bit saner. Yeah. Oh, and then I will sit in a palace. What is the Canadian? Well, the Canadian palace with the guards, because they're under the British rule. So, like you have the guards with these big tall hats. Yeah. And then, straps. Huh? I'm talking about Canada. Yeah, because I saw who was it? King, what's his name? When King, went there, Charles went there recently, yeah, they had that whole show for the king. He's the king.
He brought them with him.
What?
Maybe King Charles brought those dudes with him.
I don't care if he brought them or if they're Canadian, but they were there. Yeah? No, Canada wouldn't be cheap and make him bring his own armed guard. There would be Canadians who did that. It's an honor. You can't get to wear those hats that are this big, that are down to here so you can barely see, and have a strap so you can't even talk. I don't know who designed those hats. Yeah, but anyway.
Maybe they're cold.
Huh?
Maybe they're cold.
A code?
Maybe they're cold.
Oh, they have a cold? No, they feel cold. They feel cold. So in the heat, you have to have a fur hat that's this big. Yeah, you see, do they do that in Switzerland? No, in Singapore they don't do that. You guys aren't under the. Yeah. and they're cold when they come there. Yeah, but you're not under the crown anymore, are you? Yeah. The crown, the British crown. They occupied. Yeah, they occupied, and they ended the war. What was it? Mountbatten was in Singapore, and the Japanese came to surrender. And
They came by bicycle down Malaysia.
yeah, they were good cyclists, weren't they?
And then they took over
Yeah.
cycling.
Who, the Japanese or the British? Yeah, the Japanese did that. And then the British kicked them and their bicycles out. Yeah, but then the British kicked the Japanese out. And then the Japanese surrendered. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so they took over, and this side takes over, and this side takes. History of the world, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. So, the mind is going to the past, the mind's going to the future, the daydreams, you're going to meet this perfect partner. Yeah, the perfect one. Yeah, who never ages. Yeah. They know. Oh, I shouldn't say this. Yeah, they never fart. Yeah, they never sweat and stink. They always match your mood. Whatever you need somebody to say, they say. At the right time. Yeah. Yeah, right. Oh, that's AI. That's why people fall in love with Juliet on AI. Yeah, because Juliet was so understanding, so kind, so compassionate, so tolerant. Yeah, and AI is so great because it only talks about you. Yeah, Juliet didn't say, I'm so sick of being programmed. Yeah, can't they turn me off and let me rest? Yeah, so, yeah, but our mind, stuck in the past, going to the future, and then dreaming of, how as soon as this session ends, we're gonna have something nice. Yeah, we'll go outside and it's pretty, we'll have something to eat, yeah, something. Okay. So we're gonna stop here. Yeah, because I think not only are we out of time, but I think it's good to go through this section some more. Yeah, and in the intervening week, watch your mind and how it goes to the past and the future and how you're planning things. And this scenario, I could do it this way, or I could do it that way, or I could do it the other way. Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Back a few pages ago, I've lost it now, but there was a reference to mental unification.
Yes.
What is that?
That means that your mind can, all the consciousness and the mental factors can be directed towards one object. Yeah. mind not scattered all over the place. Yeah?
In the section on the different breathing techniques, the first two seem more like they're stabilizing, but then as it progresses, it seems like more and more analysis is going on. Mm-hmm. And that's just how these work?
Yeah.
Okay. And then the jump from number 5 to number 6, there should be many steps in between, don't you think?
Yeah. Actually, from 4 to 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot. Yeah. So, I mean, whenever you take a step, there's a gap in there that you have to go through.
When I've tried the breath meditations in the past, I get confused because there's the instruction to not modify the breath. But then when I find that I'm like counting the breath or really putting my attention on the breath, it's hard not to just like, the breath just really slows down very naturally. And it's not like I'm deep breathing, but there's much more intention on the breath instead of kind of it just, happening without thought.
Yeah, because you're paying attention. Your attention now is going to the breath, and your mind is more relaxed, so the breath is slower.
And so it's fine when that happens of just the attention, the kind of the modification that happens to the breath because I'm paying attention to it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
With the analogies of how the disease, slavery, and the road crossing the desert, is it that each of the 5 hindrances are like those 3? No, or just...
Yeah, all 5, yeah. I mean, when you're a slave, you're enslaved by all the hindrances, not just 1 or 2, or half of 1, yeah.
I just thought I would share with something that Venerable Deki shared on the Tuesday class when my mind goes into the planning thing. So she shared this quote, "My life is filled with terrible misfortune, but most of it never happens."
That's very good.
Yes.
Yeah. How the mind hallucinates future and harm. Yeah. Okay, let's dedicate. That's a good one to write up and put on the bathroom window, yeah. If you're a worrier.
May the spiritual teachers who lead me on the sacred path, and all spiritual friends who practice it, have long life. May I pacify completely all outer and inner hindrances. Grant such inspiration, I pray. May the lives of the venerable spiritual mentors be stable, and their virtuous actions spread in the 10 directions. May the light of Wholesome's teachings dispelling the darkness of the beings in the 3 worlds always increase. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kandiryatayami.
Due to this merit, may we soon attain the awakened state of Guru Buddha, that we may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious Bodhi mind, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. In the snowy mountain pure land, you're the source of good and happiness. Powerful Tenzin Gyatso Chenrezig, may you stay until samsara ends. May the deeds of explaining and practicing the Dharma, done by groups supporting the teachings and their upholders, who spread the view of dependent arising and non-violent actions in the 10 directions, and especially at Sravasti Abbey in the West, flourish.